In this episode of Ask the Expert, the independent investor sits down with the founder of Xend, an early innovator in the Southeast Asian e-commerce logistics space. He is also the co-founder of e-commerce venture studio QuadX and the former managing director of UnionBank's venture builder UBX. We discuss his background as a serial founder, his pioneering work in corporate venture building, and his latest initiative, AHG Lab, a venture builder focused on PropTech Plus, an expansion of property technologies built on an ecosystem approach to innovating that he believes will define the future of Philippine startups, giving founders their best shot at success. The independent investor's expert today is none other than Bjorn Pardo.
So hi, my name is Bjorn Pardo. I'm the co-founder of AHG Lab.
Fantastic. Okay, and so Bjorn, maybe we're wrapping up the week now. What's been keeping you busy this week?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of events happening in the Philippines. So yeah, definitely busy attending and planning for all these events, from Ignite this today to the Philippine FinTech Festival next week, and Startup Philippines event I think soon after. So yeah, been very busy.
And are you busy on behalf of AHG Lab, or is this on a personal capacity?
No, for definitely for AHG, right? I mean, I think we're always on the lookout for entrepreneurs to join us, and these are great venues to meet people and to introduce the AHG.
I mean, well, in that case, let me use this opportunity to introduce AHG then. So, Bjorn, could you tell me in a very high level, what is AHG Lab and what is it that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So AHG Lab is a venture builder, right? And what that means is, we're trying to find passionate entrepreneurs and really help them build the next generation of tech ventures in the Philippines.
And when you do meet with these entrepreneurs, these potential founders at these events here at Ignite, at Startup Philippines, how is it that you pitch AHG to them?
Yeah, so being a founding many different tech ventures in my past, I've experienced all the pain points of starting a venture, right? So it's really the pitch is really all about, look, you have a great idea, and we know there's a bunch of things that'll bog you down. There's a bunch of things that kind of prevent you from building and growing your company. We can help with that. We can handle all of this kind of quote unquote dirty work, so you can focus on growing, building your product and company.
And could you maybe dive a little deeper into what that means? So how do you define that dirty work?
Yeah, sure. So, it's really about providing these, I guess you could say, building blocks for entrepreneurs, right? So it's very difficult to start a company, and particularly a tech venture in the Philippines, right? So everything from getting your business registered, that's something that does take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of research. So we can kind of take that off your plate. That's kind of present for any company. But when it comes to a tech venture in particular, right, there's, okay, how am I going to build my product? I need to find a tech team. I don't know where to start. Developers are very expensive. It's a very competitive profession. I'm never going to find a quality and affordable team that can help me build my product, right? So we have all of these central resources, from tech, marketing, operations, finance, legal, that'll help any tech entrepreneur get off the ground, jumpstart their journey, and they don't have to worry about all of these things. We can help them. So yeah, that's not going too deep, but that's kind of a somewhat of an overview. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to get I actually would love to dive into exactly what those offerings are. But before that, I mean, you mentioned a lot of these offerings are born out of your own experience with the pain points of being a founder, right? So maybe, Bjorn, if you could run me through, like, what is your background in starting ventures and as a startup founder yourself?
Yeah, so I've been building ventures pretty much my entire professional life. And that started in 2004, so a very, very long time ago, almost 20 years ago. And, I guess everything that I've done has really been about leveling the playing field for entrepreneurs and providing them with a product or service that will allow them to compete with the biggest companies, and really just to kind of shortcut their way to success, basically, right? So it all started in 2004 when I was in the US at the time, and I was fascinated, or I got fascinated with e-commerce, and started to just basically buy and sell on eBay, in the early days of e-commerce. And I experienced this pain point of actually having to ship the things that I sold, right? And it sounds, I guess, easy these days because everything's, you can get everything at the tap of a screen. But in 2004, or even up to maybe 2010, things were very different. So I had this very big pain point in having to go to the post office and travel there and spend 2 hours of my day just to ship a parcel. And so that kind of gave me the idea of this was a pain point in the US, and the US is supposed to be very advanced with everything e-commerce. But if it was a pain point in the US, I knew that it would be a much larger pain point in the Philippines. So I decided to move to the Philippines and start this company that would help entrepreneurs, with the dirty work, I guess you could say, of running an e-commerce business. It all kind of started there with this, and that passion has remained in helping entrepreneurs in any way that I can, right? In the beginning, it was helping them with a tech service that would allow them to ship parcels affordably and conveniently, and many other ventures after that. So that's kind of how it all, I guess, started. Yeah.
When you moved back to the Philippines and you put that venture together, I mean, so of course you're thinking of the pain points of logistics in mind, but were there any other pain? I have to imagine there were a million other pain points you experienced putting up a venture, especially a tech venture in the Philippines, leading eventually to you putting together AHG as this full suite kind of back end service of supporting startups. So maybe could you describe some of those pain points as well?
In 2004, well, I mean, this is still present to this day, right? I mean, it was really about, okay, I'm not a technical person. I love tech, but I'm not a programmer. So, the first thing was, okay, where am I going to find a tech team to build what I think can help all of these entrepreneurs, right? So that's the first thing. And, luckily, I was able to find a friend that could help me out, but that's not, it's not as easy most of the time. And, and then kind of going into, okay, finding people to join my team and who believe in what we're doing. I had to do, being an entrepreneur, you have to be used to wearing multiple hats, but it's not the most efficient thing all the time. So I had to be the interviewer. I had to personally onboard everyone that joined the team. I had to personally go to the city hall and register all these things, all these permits that I needed, hire a marketing team, hire a finance team, work with the legal team, and a lot of these things kind of just doing it by yourself. So there's like the first maybe few months is like consumed by all of these things when, I could have just been focusing on building my product and adding value to all of these entrepreneurs that needed help. So if AHG existed back then, I'm sure I could have shortcutted my way to, starting to add value and bring value, and maybe do, provide other services that maybe I wouldn't think of myself, or maybe there would be a different, perspective that would allow us to really kind of go deeper into how can we help all these entrepreneurs even more. So yeah, a lot of pain points.
Absolutely. So it's building the solutions you wish you had back in 2004. And what beyond being a startup founder or a venture founder, you also built another phase of your career in corporate venture building, which I guess is the second half of what AHG is all about, right? So maybe could you tell me about that part of your career as well?
If we kind of go back to maybe about 2011, I think, or between 2011, 2012, 2013, I actually co-founded, I guess you could say, the first corporate venture builder in the Philippines, in QuadX, right? Corporate venture building or venture building wasn't an actual term back then. But if you kind of look back and see what we were doing back then and what's happening now, it's venture building, right? And that was my first taste of building multiple ventures simultaneously, and solving multiple pain points of the market that we were serving. And back then in 2012-ish, it was focused on e-commerce, right? So that was what was happening during that time. A bunch of e-commerce entrepreneurs, basically people, selling on different platforms. But if you fast forward to about 2018-19, this is when venture building was becoming, more of more mainstream. There were a bunch of different conglomerates getting into venture building, from Globe to Mega World and many others, and this was I guess a time when I just had exited one of my companies, and I was thinking about what do I want to do next. And being a lifelong entrepreneur, I was definitely thinking about, okay, what venture can I focus on now to help entrepreneurs, and where can I create the biggest impact? And so I was talking to a friend of mine at UnionBank, and we were actually discussing a potential venture that I had, that maybe he'd like to work with me on. And he said, UnionBank is starting this venture builder, and they're going to be focusing on small businesses, entrepreneurs, and I think that you would be a good fit. You should talk to them, right? And so long story short, I talked to the folks over at UnionBank and loved what they were doing, and I thought this would be a great platform to reach a much larger audience and really be able to focus on building the ventures when while this venture builder could focus on all of these pain points that I mentioned earlier. And so this was I guess the second taste of venture building. And again, it was focused at the time, it was focused on it was focused a little more, the focus was more broad in that it was anything anything within the tech space, but I guess more towards like e-commerce and fintech, but it was a little bit more broad. So while I was there, the biggest pain points that we saw for entrepreneurs at the time were payments and e-commerce platforms. So while I was there, I was leading commerce and payments, and we built a payment aggregator similar to Paymongo or Xend it. But we were one of the first to really try to aggregate all these payment methods into one solution, because that was one of the pain points that entrepreneurs and founders were experiencing at the time, where they had to deal with multiple companies just to complete all of the payment methods that they needed. And the other pain point that we saw was being able to start an online presence in instantaneously that already had all of the things that you needed to really start your online store immediately, right? So if you could think of it as like the Shopify of the Philippines, but if you work with Shopify, you're gonna have to look for a payment provider that you can integrate, and logistics and all these things, wherein what we were doing over at UBX. So UBX is the name of the venture builder. I don't think I even mentioned that. So UBX was this e-commerce platform like a Shopify, but already pre-integrated with payments, and of course that payments integration was with the other product that we were building, and then already pre-integrating with all of these logistics providers. And that's kind of where my logistics background came in. So that's you can see all of from 2004 to 2012 to 2018, 19, all of these there's still a lot of pain points to solve, and there's still a lot of things that entrepreneurs need to be able to be in a position where they can succeed, and that those pain points may be different now, but there's still pain points, and there's still a lot of value that any venture builder can add.
I mean, there's a clear through line across this entire story around creating those shortcuts for getting people to just focus on solving the pain points, and creating those tools to support to clear out all of the dirty work, like you said. I'm really curious. So before we kind of dive in further into the into the venture builder model, what was your experience putting up a venture as a solo founder versus in the context of a venture builder like UBX? Was there a market difference in launching something new, launching a new product between those two settings?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main difference, right, is just kind of looking at it from kind of being a solo founder or a solo entrepreneur versus the venture builder model. At UBX, we were able to launch our MVP in 6 weeks. And so you can see, how fast you can move when you don't have to worry about, hiring a team, interviewing a team, registering your, business permits, finding an office, like getting all the furniture, figuring out the layout of the, it's crazy. I can go on. And so, going from like having to do it yourself, it'll take you 6 months, right? Just because of all these other things. At least UBX and kind of venture building in particular, you can really get something out there in 6 weeks, maybe even faster, but 6 weeks is pretty fast.
And now we enter into 2022. And you have your own venture builder that you're touring across all of these events now, AHG Lab. Could you tell me a bit more about AHG Lab and how your experience as a founder, as a venture builder, as one of the leads of a venture builder, go into AHG Lab and your approach to supporting ventures?
Yeah, I mean, I think at AHG Lab, we have, just to maybe take a step back and give you a little bit of a background of maybe our focus and how maybe my background kind of adds value. Our AHG Lab started off as a PropTech venture builder, like a venture builder focused on anything around property, real estate, and PropTech. And so our first layer of ventures were around solving problems in the PropTech space, from, let's say, a property management app that helped property owners manage their tenants and guests, to a mobile app that helped brokers manage their own brokering business. But then what we realized was that when you take a broader view of the PropTech ecosystem and start looking at, okay, what are the other pain points of the property owners? What are the other pain points of the guests and tenants of these properties where we have a product or service? It now becomes so much broader, and it opens your eyes to now looking at PropTech and where we're operating as a community. It now becomes much more exciting in the types of ventures that we can build, right? And so when we started this transition into what we call kind of PropTech Plus, earlier this year, when we kind of discovered all of these other pain points that we could solve and how it can benefit ecosystem, or the ecosystems that where we have existing products or services. And so when you look at kind of my background and the background of all of the other members of the team, something that I realized kind of working in other venture builders and other just building ventures, is that you kind of almost get trapped in this silo of, or even kind of echo chamber of very similar ideas, and it hinders you from really thinking outside of the box and allowing other perspectives to come in, right? And so with me coming from logistics, e-commerce, fintech, and other members kind of bringing their own different perspectives, that's when things started to really open up, right? Because if we just continued to just have this kind of real estate and PropTech focus, we would probably be just continuing to build solutions around PropTech when the opportunity is so much larger, right? So I think that's something that's very, I guess, different with us, is that we are very intentional to bring in people from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences, to be able to build a one-of-a-kind and unique venture builder.
So I want to circle back to PropTech Plus and how it benefits from that diverse community that you're building. But you named a number of different really interesting value add points around AHG Lab, in that it allows entrepreneurs to not be bogged down by all of this dirty work, as you described it. You support them through the central resources, tech, marketing, operations, finance, legal. But the point here that I think is most fascinating is this the diversity as a strength in this ecosystem approach that you take to putting up a venture. So diversity, maybe not just in the sense of the advisors that you provide these founders, but also diversity in the community you're building, because these founders can help each other as well, right? So could you maybe talk a bit more about the ecosystem that you've built around let's say the PropTech Plus space here in AHG Lab?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when you look at, you know, the portfolio of companies that we have and the different founders that we have, everyone is at a different stage, right? There's a couple of ventures that are already post revenue, have launched, have customers, are growing, and so they've been, you know, they've gone from, you know, 0 to 3 or whatever that stage may be. And then we have, you know, at the other end of the spectrum, we have founders who are you know, just have a deck, right? And so now we're helping them you know, discover, you know, who their target market is, and what the MVP that you know, we will build, what that should be and what that could be. And so there's definitely ventures still at this kind of research stage. You know, there's companies that are at the building stage, there's companies who are just about to launch, and there's companies who are a little further along. So, you know, aside from, you know, all of the different experience that you know, the venture builder kind of management team brings, it's really this collaboration of different founders that you know, of them helping each other, and you know, them collaborating with each other, and really discovering kind of, you know, we're all in this ecosystem, this common ecosystem. How can we help each other? So it's about helping them through that journey and shortcutting their way through different learnings and issues that the other kind of more advanced founders experience, to now collaborating on, like, okay, how can we work together to create this mutually beneficial partnership, and this you know, this will just continue to grow and accelerate as we bring in more you know, more ventures that bring more diversity and ventures from, you know, in different industries.
So the way we're talking about PropTech Plus, you know, as the focus of AHG Lab, it seems to really describing it as this intersection of a number of different industries, right? So I'm looking at right now at your portfolio on your website. I see here accommodations, e-commerce, fitness, marketplaces. What I think is a good opportunity to define, like, so what exactly is PropTech Plus, you know, versus traditional, let's say, PropTech? And the side note, crazy that we're already at a point where we can call PropTech traditional, right? But, you know, so PropTech Plus, why do you see property technologies at the center of all of these different sectors?
Yeah, so, like, I guess I'll start at the kind of the PropTech level, right? I mean, when you look at, you know, I'll give you an example. I mean, I think it's best, you know, it's best kind of explained through an example. So we have, you know, our roots are really in the traditional real estate space, right? So two of our other co-founders, you know, started, you know, I would say the two largest co-living / dormitory properties in the Philippines, right? So because of that knowledge and because of that that foundation, you know, of course we were initially kind of serving, you know, those spaces with the property management software that we were providing. But then now when you know, when you look at, okay, let's take a dormitory building as an example. You know, when we started to talk to the tenants and of this building, you know, we discovered that, you know, aside from, you know, providing, you know, them living in this building, we discovered all of these other pain points that they were experiencing as an individual, right? So for example, you know, a lot of the properties where we have presence are on the outskirts of the CBDs. So you know, when you talk to one of these tenants, you know, they want to be able to, you know, go to an accessible gym, for example, right? But then to have to go to, let's say, a gym, they'll have to go travel into maybe the CBD or travel a little further to a commercial area. And even if they do get there, you know, if they want to kind of go somewhere that is, you know, modern and clean, it's going to be a little expensive, right? And just the hassle of having to travel there is another challenge in itself. So what we realized was that, okay, you know, what if we could create this micro, micro gym that allowed you to, you know, book, you know, time in the gym on demand and not have to travel so far. That became something that people started to be really excited about, right? So this is kind of when you start kind of looking at, you know, the other pain points of the people in the community, you know, the doors just open up to so many more opportunities. And now when you look at, for example, the property operator, right? They need supplies, they need things for their accommodations. So now we have a marketplace, a B2B marketplace that can kind of serve their needs as well. And the list goes on and on, right? I mean, again, now, like, we have another you know, startup in stealth mode that is now thinking about how can we help the members of the community with transportation. Mm-hmm. So now you're getting into you know, spaces that seemingly, you know, do not seem like they are in the PropTech space, but they do kind of fit in and plug into this ecosystem very well when you start thinking about the individual and the people in these communities. So it's very exciting, and you know, that's why we're looking for, you know, for entrepreneurs who can kind of bring their own fresh perspective of, you know, what else can be, what else can benefit the ecosystem, what else can benefit the individuals in the ecosystem, and you know, what other ventures can synergize well with the rest of the ventures that we have.
That's really fascinating, and I'd love to hear more about that. Your new venture in stealth mode right now. It sounds a lot like what might be like a ride sharing, but for hyper local communities. You know, like that seems really cool. You know, I think a lot of this speaks to your background as an entrepreneur, because of the different founders I've spoken to, I've come to understand that the entrepreneurial mindset is really just hyper focus on pain points and problems and seeing them as opportunities. And I guess if you shine that kind of light on any sort of space, something like PropTech Plus is just the logical conclusion, right? Because these pain points compound, right? And so therefore, the solutions should also be compounding, right? This ecosystem play just makes sense. I'm just curious, if you had to distill it down, you know, you with your entrepreneurial lens that you shine on these sectors, what sort of problems are you developing solutions for specifically? Like, what's the formula for that, for figuring out, okay, so this is a pain point, this is worth building a venture to solve?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it, right? It's all about solving pain points, and you know, so this is why, you know, it's okay. I think it's two parts, right? It's solving a pain point is one, and two, it's really having the right founder solving that pain point. And what I mean by that is, you know, sure, we can discover, you know, pain points on our own very easily, but what it takes to really be successful is for a founding team to be passionate about that problem that's being solved. Because if I think the best founders are solving their own pain points. Not to say that that's the only way to do it, but I think that's definitely something that we are looking for are founders who are solving their own pain point or are passionate about a problem enough where we know that they will go through the problems and challenges and fight through those problems and challenges to be able to provide that eventual solution. So that's really our focus is really trying to find these entrepreneurs who have a unique insight into a space that maybe no one knows about, or that they are super passionate about, that where we know that we'll have a much larger chance of success because of that passion, because of that drive to solve their own problem or a problem that they're experiencing themselves. So that's kind of, I guess, the initial part of the formula that we are executing on. But as with any startup, you have to be agile, and you have to be continuously learning and continuously iterating to find that perfect formula, right? I mean, I don't believe we have the perfect formula right now, but we do know what we've been successful at, and even from personal experience, I do know kind of what kind of allowed me to fight through these challenges. So that's what we're focusing on now, and we will continue to iterate this formula until we get it right, but we'll just continue to iterate. I'm thinking throughout our lifetime.
Yeah, and again, this is where that environment you're talking about enters in, right? Building the right environment and providing the right resources to allow these founders and these teams to stay agile and iterate across the entire process. So again, speaks to the merits of the venture builder model, this ecosystem model that you're putting together. Now, speaking to our audience of not just founders and entrepreneurs, but also investors, how would you define the opportunity that AHG Lab presents to this community? Like, how might, let's say, an investor who's interested in making some contributing to the PropTech Plus space capitalize on AHG Lab?
When you look at the landscape today, it has changed tremendously just in the last couple of years. When you rewind back to before the pandemic, even right before the pandemic, 2020, was it 2020 when the pandemic started? I don't even know anymore.
2 years ago, but also 2 decades ago, it feels, right? So 2020.
2020. So the early parts of 2020, right? I mean, things were very different, right? And a good example would be, I've been in the e-commerce space for 20 years or something or so, and even when you rewind back just to 2020, digital payments were not as mainstream as it is now, right? I mean, I can tell you, like, just from personal experience, buying online on, let's say, for example, Facebook Marketplace, the vast majority of people that I would try to buy from in 2020 would be, asking me to deposit to their bank account, right? And so Gcash was really more, back then, more of a B2B service more than anything. But now, kind of fast forward to 2022, I'll tell you a story of, that our CFO actually tells all the time. One of our friends was on vacation, in somewhere in some remote province in the Philippines, and they were on a boat, and some fisherman kind of came up to their boat on his boat and was selling fish, fresh fish,
Catch
right?
of the day. Yeah.
Catch of the day. And so immediately the people were saying, oh, I'm sorry, shoot, like we don't have any cash on us. I wish I brought some cash, because we could have gotten some fresh fish. But he said, no, it's okay. I have Gcash here. You can pay me through Gcash, right? So you can see how much things have changed from just a little over 2 years ago. And so now, because a lot of this infrastructure is there, because the environment and the population are now kind of online first, and kind of prefer digital payments more than anything now, it now kind of again opens the doors to many more opportunities. And a lot of Filipinos are naturally entrepreneurial, and so now all of these naturally entrepreneurial people are seeing all of these opportunities, but at the same time, again, it's not the easiest environment to be building tech ventures in. And so that's where we come in. So we see ourselves, I guess from an investor's point of view, we see ourselves as this is the best way to build Philippine tech ventures. This is the best way, right? Because we will provide the entrepreneurs with these central resources, and we will be, our something very different with us from other venture builders is that we do have, again, a very diverse team, but more than that, we have a very hands-on diverse team. So, for example, me, I will help one of our e-commerce ventures with their cross-border e-commerce strategy, and help them through that, introduce them to people who can help them. And someone else may be helping another venture with their financial model. Some other member of the management team will be helping another founder determine the features of their MVP. And so we're super hands-on, where we increase the chances of success by leaps and bounds. So when you look at it from an investor's perspective, this is the closest thing to a sure bet that you'll ever have in the tech space, right? I mean, everyone knows that the vast majority of tech ventures that start do not make it. With us, you could argue that our success rate is going to be 90%, right? I mean, just looking at the successes that we've had so far, because of all the support, the central resources, expertise that we bring to the table, and being super hands-on, we increase the chances of success exponentially.
So, Bjorn, you are spending the next couple, I suppose, weeks going out, attending these events, meeting with potential entrepreneurs who might be, I don't know if you call them entrepreneurs in residence for your venture builder, but from your conversations with the guys at the front lines, and your conversations with your existing ecosystem, what do you see? What type of ventures do you see at the forefront of this new frontier you guys are calling PropTech Plus in the next coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I know this might sound like maybe avoiding the answer, but it's not, right? I mean, again, it's really there's a lot of interesting spaces out there. There's a lot of interesting industries that are ready to be disrupted from, blockchain and Web3 and, fintech and all that, right? But we don't want to limit ourselves to a particular space or a particular industry. We're really, truly trying to find entrepreneurs, founders, people with ideas that have a unique insight into, an industry, a problem that they're trying to solve. And, if they have that, and, we see an opportunity to kind of plug it into our ecosystem, or even, an opportunity that we believe that this could be a very successful tech venture, that's something that we're interested in. So it's really, really centered around the entrepreneur, the founder, the idea that they have, and the unique insight that they have, and the problem that they're trying to solve.
All right, Bjorn, I think that's fantastic. Any last kind of takeaways or last messages that you'd like to share with our audience as you dive into this chapter for AHG Lab?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'll say to everyone listening is, the time is now. I can tell you, kind of being in the tech industry for almost 2 decades, we've been dreaming of this day for 2 decades, and we always thought we were there, right? We always thought, oh, we're at this inflection point, and we're here. The time is now. And kind of seeing all those times when we thought we were there to now, we are truly there. And now there are, companies, venture builders, former entrepreneurs, and the ecosystem as a whole, or the kind of tech industry as a whole. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to help, who, want to help. And so there's more support than ever. And the country is ready. So if you have an idea, if you have a unique insight, if you have a problem that you want to solve, do it. And I think, of course, the best place to be able to do that is with AHG Lab. So reach out to us, go to our website, ahglab.com, and check us out. And we'd love to have a conversation with anyone who has an idea.
I think it's a fantastic place to end the conversation and our discussion today. Bjorn, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with AHG Lab and your activities in the next coming months.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.